To begin, where else but at the end? Dali is dead. His body rots, chewed by worms and gnawed by maggots. His liver heaves in a wriggling mass. His heart is a green sponge gorged with pus. His lungs turn to sludge as his offal rots, and a stinking slime oozes out of his guts. Then his putrefied corpse split apart, rent asunder by a mighty fart. Dali is dead. Dali is dead. Salvador Dali is dead. Dead. Dead.
But wait. Dali cannot die. Salvador Dali cannot die. Dali is able to conquer death. Dali is destined to conquer death. Dali, the divine, genius sublime. And like the phoenix from the ashes, Salvador Dali is resurrected. He is ascending into heaven to sit upon the right hand of God. For he is immortal and he is invisible. Paradise beacons. Rejoice! Rejoice! Dali has not died. He is deified. Beneath the celestial canopy, he lies like a saint in antiquity, enshrined throughout eternity, enthroned in heavenly hierarchy. Dali the divine has conquered death. He lives. He moves. He has his being. He is reborn. He comes to life. Lo, the living legend comes to life. Dios míos. An audience with me is a privilege indeed. This contraption is my thinking machine, and it will dictate the sequences of events. Each of the number in the back of the chair corresponds to one of my favorite subjects. 8 numbers in all, 8 subjects. In a moment, I shall ask you to shout out a number. You in the audience, normally so timid and powerless, will thus dictate the orders of events. A small privilege which you may appreciate, especially as the evening wears on. Pick a number, any number.
13.
13. 13, 13, 13. Childhood. Childhood, childhood. I remember childhood. This little Proustian corpse. I have no time for children. Although it is undoubtable fact that I was once a child myself. And what a child, my dears. Kale, monster. A proper little demon. When I was 6, I wanted to be a cook. At 7, Napoleon. And my ambition has been growing steadily ever since. My mother and father worshipped and adored me, and I was absolute the monarch of the house. And I ruled the roost like the tyrant I was. I wet my bed until I was 8, just for the hell of it, and defecated in drawers and cupboards until my fond and doting parents became afraid to open them. In short, I stopped at nothing to demonstrate the pure irrationality of my will. One day, age 5, I was walking in the countryside with a little boy much smaller and weaker than I. He had very blonde curly hair, sweet. As we reached to a bridge which had no railings, suddenly I was seized with an uncontrollable urge to push him off. So I did, whoosh, and over he went, crashed, just like that. Throughout the afternoon, blood-stained basin were brought down from the room where the little child lay. He had a badly injured head and was going to stay in bed for at least a week. The general turmoil which the house was thrown put me in a delightful, hallucinatory mood. I don't recall having experienced the slightest feeling of guilt or remorse over this incident. Throughout the afternoon, I sat in the rocking chair, eating cherries. My father was a notary and one of the most esteemed men in Figueras, my own town. He also liked to think of himself as something of a free thinker, so I was sent to a local school, or rather traveled all the way. I read such a commotion that the shopkeepers came out on the doorstep to watch us go past. Thus it came to pass that I spent the first few years with the poorest children of the town. As a result, I came to consider myself as something precious, delicate, apart. My schoolmates would only come near me with the greatest misgivings in order to admire the lace handkerchief that bloomed for my pocket, or my new bamboo can adorned with a dog's head. One of my favorite tricks at school was to throw myself from the top of the flight of the steep stone step in the schoolyard. I would wait, of course, until a large crowd would gather, and then, to complete astonishment of all concerned, I would hurl myself over the edge. The delirious joy and rapture. The expression on their stupefied faces afforded me was far, far greater than any pain resulting from the most exhilarating fall. But yet I always adored heights. Such a vertiginous intoxication. To be up there. Such a wonderful phrase that is. My first painting studio was right at the top of the house. I always tried to be at the top. Now that I am, I shall stay here until I die. High is monarchy, architecture, the angels. Low is chaos, the mess, the child. I've always been a snob. Parties are given for the benefit of those who are not invited. But I digress. Where was I? Oh yes, childhood and my parents. My mother was a perfect saint. When she died, I wept for a week. But just the thought of her brought tears to my eyes. My father affected me profoundly. I was the apple of his eye. To me, the legend of William Tell is a story of incestuous mutilation. The father is willing to sacrifice his son, huh? He is a hero indeed, who has overcome the authority of his father. I quote from Sigmund Freud. Many of my childhood daydreams, you'll be glad to hear, were of an erotic nature. One in particular springs to mind. I shall reenact it for you. Every year, in our garden, the linden blossom were picked by local peasant women. One of the pickers was a particularly beautiful woman, and her proud and turgescent breast filled me with a wonderful rapture. To see them move beneath her blouse was almost unbearable joy. One day, I decided to set up a trap so I could realize one of my fantasies. I threw my diablo into a tree that was exactly opposite a small window around the back of our house. Shouting to the woman that my diablo got stuck in a tree, I ran into the house so I could see her retrieving the diablo from the vantage point of the window. On entering the little dark room, immediately I put on a cape and a crown, which I left in readiness. And of course I carried my trusty crutch, which by now became my constant companion. Looking outside, I was delighted to see that the woman was climbing a ladder and approaching the diablo fast. Exactly that moment, it came to my attention that there were 3 melons hanging from the rafters. A sudden inspiration overwhelmed me. Delicately, I placed the bifurcation of my crutch underneath the lower part of the hanging melon, pressing it with all the sentimental tenderness which I was capable. And acutely racism drowned my eyes with tears. The softness of the melon exceeded all my hopes. Then I turned my glass upwards to glue it on the bosom of the woman. I could not see her breast very clearly. Their confused mess seen against the light only exasperated my unsatisfied libido. Soon the juice began to drip on me. I pressed my face beneath the melon, opening my mouth wide and reaching out my tongue, which was thirsty and dry with heat and desire. Then I looked at the melon, then at the window. Melon, window, 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 melon, window. And exactly the moment she retrieved the diablo from the branches, so the melon broke from the rafters and flooded my body with warm, sweet, sticky juice. I lay still for some moments, limp and exhausted. I've just experienced what I can only describe as my first mental orgasm. Where was I? Ah yes, childhood. I've always adhered to the philosophy of the anti-Faust, by which I mean I always adored the noble prestige of old people. When I was young, I wanted to grow old immediately. Childhood. I remember childhood. Thus spake Salvador. Pick a number, any number.
52.
52. 52, 52, 52, 52. 52! Dali, fetishes and phobias. This is a fairly lengthy section. Let me delve into the black hole of my fetishes and phobias. Ooh. Something small and simple. A little snail. I adore snails. One day, while eating burgundy snails, I saw a photograph of Sigmund Freud in the newspaper. And immediately, my visionary intelligence alighted upon the fundamental truth that Freud's cranium is a snail. His brain is in the form of a spiral to be extracted with a needle. Finally, I met Freud in London. Hitler has driven him there. Head across the courtyard outside the house where he was staying, South Hampstead. I saw his bicycle prompt against the railings, and attached to the seat of the bicycle, there was a red-hot water bottle. That struck me as strange enough, but imagine my astonishment when I perceived crawling along on the hot water bottle. Yes, you have guessed, a snail. Naturally, I told Freud about all this strange coincidence. Apparently, his only comments after I left behind my back was, "Typical Spaniard, what a fanatic!" Freud, I salute you. You are the first man on this planet to fully realize the enormous importance of the subconscious mind. Next we come to, cherries. I love cherries. The cauliflower have always struck me as being particularly fine. There's galactic forms in this magical world. Look for yourself, catch it, sir. Did you ever see such an explosion of energy? Such complete compression, huh? We have to cook it later. It's good for the farts. Next we come to... a shoe. Shoes are the objects in the world which are most charged with realistic virtues, as opposed to musical objects which I always try to represent as demolished, crushed, soft cellos of rotten meat. Next we come, my beloved crutch. We all have our crutches, do we not? What is an idea about the crutch, huh? First time I came upon a crutch as a child, I knew immediately that it was a very important moment in my life. I loved it and adopted it. It communicated to me an assurance and an arrogance which I had never been capable of until then. I loved it for its authority, for its mystery and mastery. Life without crutches is quite unthinkable. And every good Dalinian must have at least one. This particular old friend has all the power and potency of a magic wand. Spellbinding! Oh my God! Oh! Not that! Not that! Slobbery, loathsome, horror, nightmare, and hallucinating folly of Salvador Dali's life. Crooked of pure fear. How repugnant, yeah. When its capacity for suffering reaches breaking point, it flings itself high. Its paralyzing lips are reflecting in the stars of terror that shakes my whole being to its very depths. I refer, of course, to the grasshopper. How I hate his shiny body, yeah. Once my cousin crushed a large grasshopper on my neck. It's still half destroyed between my shirt collar and my flesh, bathed in yellow and lots of fluid, yeah. And as it twitches its hateful life away, bathed in yellow juice, I was sure it's gonna die of terror, but enough I'll make myself vomit. Next item in this strange agenda is altogether pleasanter. I refer, of course, to my mustache.
I was determined from the outset that my mustache would not be depressing, catastrophing, or burdened. Beware the troopers. They bear bad tidings. Poor Friedrich Nietzsche and Marcel Proust are excellent examples. No, Dali mustache will be lined thin, imperialistic, ultra-rationalistic, and thrusting upwards towards heaven in vertical mysticism, like the spires of Gaudi's cathedral. My mustache is antennae, ultra-sensitive, atomic sensitive to the smallest change in temperature and atmosphere. And if you ask me how I keep it up, and the answer is with dates. Yes, dates. After eating a number of dates, I find my fingers with a perfect sticky consistency to put it in shape and fixing it in place. Amen. Anything mechanical, I totally abhor. Look at it. Clockwork, artificial, doomed to rust and rust. And now, and last but not least, I come to my beloved coffee jar. I love to pour warm, sweet coffee over my body. Thus, its progress down my sticky, progress down my torso, affords me with the greatest possible pleasure. And as it dries, it leaves behind an extremely agreeable moisture, with many drying and hardening tributaries take me to the very brink of ecstasy. Wonderful. That's wonderful. My object with these objects is to render my fetishes and phobias visible and tangible. Thus, my subconscious mind may manifest. Pick a number, any number.
5.
5. 5 in the middle of the night. Well, we see what 5 says. 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5. 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5. 5. Wow. What a surreal number. 5. Surrealism. Surrealismo. Surrealistica. What is surrealism? Surrealism is thought's dictation in the absence of control. The mind is exactly like an iceberg. 9/10 of it is hidden beneath the surface. In order to explore surrealism, I must descend into the subconscious mind. And in order to descend to the subconscious mind, I must wear my deep sea diving suit. The only other weapon I have to help me in the exploration of the great seabed is my famous paranoid critical method. Let me explain. This method allows me to adopt the delusion of the madman without myself succumbing into madness. This is obviously extremely dangerous. One can go easily too far, right around the bend. But yet I've never been afraid to experiment upon myself, for I am but an explorer, the plumber of the depths. Everything is ready? Now I'm prepared for the great underwater unknown. Reason will be left behind. Thought's dictation in the absence of control. Elliot, let the descent begin.
Maestro!
Still on the surface. Quite superficial. Flotsam and jetsam. Suntan lotion, croak and crabs and empty bottles. Nothing coming up. Must rub my eyes. Make spots before my eyes. Candle, glass too thick. Go a little deeper. Try a little deeper. It's a goldfish bowl, a lobster pot. Inside the lobster just like a telephone wires, Portuguese men of war, a wriggling squid. Nothing unusual. Go a little deeper. Try a little deeper into the weed, through the thicket, down among the dead men. Ah yes, now the pressure builds. Anarchy, anchovy, violent spaghetti, rock and a rock face, faces in the rock face. Yes. Darker and deeper. Crock and crumbs in empty bottles. Tin of sardine, up to Sardinia. Darker and deeper. Anxiety and poverty and creme de menthe. Anarchy, anchovy, violent spaghetti, rock and a rock face, faces in the rock face. Look at the seabed, what can I see? Napoleon fast size, roast leg of Hitler, Beethoven cranium, Matete, faces and pieces, poetry and puberty. No, not this. Priest and cardinal elements, clock and trunk and empty bottles. No, not this. The curates are coming, hundreds of curates. I'll kick the curates up, I'll kick them up. 1, 2, 3, wallop. 1, 2, 3, wallop. Kick him. Kick the curate for Christmas. No, help me. I'm drowning. Help me. Help. A ship connect out, the size of my hand, balancing on your head. Can't you see the little? Look. Can't you see it, sir? A ship connect out, the size of my hand. Up. I'm suffocating. Gala! Give me back my soul, Gala! Gala. Ah, Gala. All my life, I've been haunted by one chimerical image of a perfect female beauty. That perfect image was finally made manifest by the divine form of Gala. My Gradilia, my Galachka, my Gala. Gala adopted me. She took unto herself to be my protectress, my divine mother, my queen. Gala drove the forces of death out of me forever, and I did not go mad because she took over my madness. By signing my painting Gala Dali, all I did is to give a name to an existential truth, for without my twin Gala, I would no longer exist. Gala is composed of those fleeting attitudes, of those 9 symphony-like facial expressions, which reflecting the architectonic contours of a perfect soul, become crystallized in the very shoreline of the flesh, and the skin surface, and the sea foam of the hierarchies of our own life, which have been clarified by the very delicate breezes of the sentiments, harden, are organized, and become architecture in bone and flesh. I can measure exactly the skin columns of our pride, the tender and stubborn banisters of our childhood, and the divine stairways of a smile. All I have to do is to touch the beauty spot on Gala's left earlobe, to be carried away by a flying carpet of an overwhelming love. This wonderful spot is the proton of my beloved everlasting energy, the sun of our heart, the geometrical locus of our passion for each other, the very point at which any contradiction between our two beings ceases to be. All I have to do is to rub it with my fingers, to be flooded with love and strength in my own destiny. Gala, my divine treasure, my tender queen, you are my weight in gold. Thus spake Salvador Gali. Did I ask you to shout out a number? But I'll take it.
I'll take it. 69 is a good number. I like it. I'll take it. My Spanish Inquisition.
Non, rien de rien. Non, je ne regrette rien. Ni le bien qu'on m'a fait.
The least bit from the surrealists. Picture, if you will, dear friends, a cold February afternoon in Paris of 1934. I am summoned by André Breton, the high priest of the surrealist movement, to a meeting of that august body. I'm arriving with a thermometer in my mouth, pretending to have a flu. And also I'm wearing a considerable amount of jerseys, 6 in all, I think. On entering the room, it soon becomes apparent that this is nothing less than a trial, an inquisition, and the charges are as follows. Firstly, that I'm a caprophagic. This is because of the shit stains on my notorious painting, The Lugubrious Game. Smear tactique was my retort, but more of that anon. The second and most serious charge is that I'm an admirer of Hitler. How can I admire anyone with a short one as long as I have a big one? But as the discussion became more and more heated, so my jerseys become fewer and fewer. They talk of misery, I talked of mystery. They talk of collectivism, I defend hierarchy. So I'm checking my temperature and removing my outer layer. They talk of involvement, I cancel detachment. They press for commitment, so I tell them straight. Commitment to an artist is what the trick is to a whore. Degradation of himself in order to be able to rationalize what he is doing, make him socially useful. But that stops them on their tracks. So I'm checking my temperature and removing my outer layer. Then this is little Puritan Breton talks about money. Ha ha ha! What else? He coined that witty anagram of my name, Avida dollars. Well, I'm not going to let him go away with that, no fear. So I'm saying the surrealists pretend to scorn money because they're unable to make it. So I'm checking my temperature and removing my final outer layer. Why am I so infatuated with Hitler, they want to know. Because of the chubby flesh, I reply. Expand, they say, expound. Are you a supporter of Hitler, Mr. Dali? Well, my obsession is purely paranoid and totally apolitical. I'm fascinated by Hitler's soft round back, always so tightly encased in its uniform. Every time I start painting the leather strap that runs from his belt across the opposite shoulder, the softness of the Hitlerian flesh squeezed into the military tunic take me to the very brink of ecstasy. This is simultaneously gustatory, milky, nutritive, and Wagnerian. All natural, all vibrato, is not amused. So I'm checking my temperature and removing my outer layer. Anyway, if Hitler conquers Europe, I'll be one of the first to go to the war as the general. But would I fight against him, they persist. My attitude to wars is the same as my attitude to children fighting in the street, to be avoided at all costs. I cannot imagine a world without wars. Wars are caused by planetary motion, totally beyond the control of men. But have you no pity, no compassion? Compassion is for filles de joie, for prostitutes. Total confusion reigns, so I'm checking my temperature and removing my final layer. Now, naked to the waist, I'm throwing myself at Breton's feet, whimpering, sobbing, and begging forgiveness in somehow histrionic fashion. André, 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 je m'excuse, je excuse-moi, papa André, excuse-moi. I am permanently expelled from the movement. Do I care? No. Why don't I care? Because I'm not a surrealist. I am Surrealism! Pick a number. Any number.
44.
44! 44! Never had that number for a long time. 44. Orifices. Orifices. Orifices, 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 orifices. Such a smooth and pleasurable word. Orifices. Such an edifying and succulent mouthful. Orifices. Every day I go to the orifice. In and one end and out the other. So elementary, this elementary canal. This golden cord, from mouth to anus and from stamen to sternum. Let us start from the entrance. Most philosophical organ man possesses is his jaws. His whole awareness of reality coming through his jaws. Chewing and swallowing, swallowing and chewing. For spirit is visceral, and what is eating but affirmation of life. Beauty should be edible or not at all, and art should be always good enough to eat. The soft bacon of my self-portraits and the pork chop of my beloved shoulder blades is the veritable gastronomic garden of the life. The public hungry for ideas, I say, feed them food for thought. When I was young, when I was a kid, it was a sin for me to eat food of any kind in the kitchen. Is it any wonder it became kind of paradise? Great sweating women with hair like horses' manes, scattered grapes, crushed garlic, assorted sugared almonds, licorice and jelly bonbons. But I like nothing better in the world than to crack the skulls of tiny bears between my teeth. Small bears are like small shellfish. They wear the armor, so to speak, flush with the skins on the outside. Skulls and shells to crack and crunch. I love the sublime viscosity of a fish eye. I adore the spermatozoal marrow of a bone or the soft and swampy opulence of an oyster. I love camembert, precisely, because when it's ripe and beginning to run, it resembles and assumes exactly the shape of my famous soft watches. By high woodcook, cooked in brandy, and served in its own excrement, is the very pinnacle of the Camry summit. But wait, I start to salivate. The sacred tabernacle of my palate overflows with gastric juices, and the sweet and sensitive part of my tongue drools with delights at the mere mention of all these delectable dishes. But my entire ethic consists of getting maximum pleasure through waiting, using resistance to extend desire by heightening it to the very paroxysm. So much for the entrance. Now for the exit. Caught between two stools, so to speak. The asshole is the principal zone of hibernation of the body. Hibernating animals plug up their asshole the better to preserve their intestines. And if you want to be secretive, then use full stopper. And just as the gypsy queen can decipher the state of the world from the entrails of the chicken, so the initiated adept can unravel the innermost secrets of his psychic by examining his daily poo-poo. Please, please don't laugh, don't laugh. I intensely dislike all form of frivolities on this most serious subject. It always amazes me that so little serious research has been given to this most metaphysical matter. Your stools are the vital clue to your internal and spiritual state. One night I dreamt that my shit had acquired the consistency of pure honey. The following day, I received a check for $200,000. This led me to believe that I was indeed a goose, which laid the proverbial golden egg. My insides are an alchemical crucible, and I always enjoyed rolling in it. According to that sublime and contradictory character, Paracelsus, excrement is a thread of life, and each interruption or fart is but a moment of life flying away. Please, please don't laugh, don't laugh. Don't laugh. To fart is an art. There are giant firecrackers farts, diphthong farts, and cannonades. Aspirated farts, silent creepers. Brewers farts, and actors farts. To all your farts, give free rein, for a fart bottled up will attack the brain. Another attraction of the anus is that its secret can be penetrated. Did you realize that? Huh? Sodomy has always been a source of a great delight to me. Not as participant, hustle to art. No, no, no. My form of chest eroticism forbids such flagrant things. But I like to be the director of a play with characters which I can inflame at will. One afternoon at Cadaqués, I've succeeded in persuading a beautiful young lady to allow herself to be sodomized by a lad of my acquaintance. They entered from inside of the room. She is naked under her dressing gown and he without a stitch on and his stool at the ready. He turned her over immediately and started going about his penetration. It was inside so fast that I got up to check. I hate to be taken for a ride. And that moment, she exclaimed ecstatically, "It's for Dali, for the divine one, for Dali, for Dali." That statement rubbed me up the wrong way. For I sensed how utterly funny it was. The more so, she's the young stud was wildly furrowing her foundation, and she was groaning with delight. So I demanded, "Admit it! Admit that you adore that thing up your ass! Admit it!" Her play acting stopped immediately. And she said, "Yes, I adore it. Me canta, más fuerte, madre mía." Then I witnessed the most amazing things one can dream of as an expression of phenomenal beauty. The young lady, held solidly by the hips, screwed into the man, raised her both arms which she threw back, arching out her splintered bosom and her wonderful cherries nipples. Meanwhile, her head fell back, and her Mae West red sofa lips rose to meet those of the male, who was making her come in such pain, such pain. There was perfection in gesture that turned the animal couple into a kind of intertwining, climbing plan, thus providing a truly angelic vision. I've never been able to tell this story without having the wonderful feeling that I have somehow violated the secret of perfect beauty. If you are shocked, remember this, dear disciples. Repugnance is the sentry standing right near the door of those things we desire the most. Not a bad analogy. Think about it. Thus spake Salvador. I smell a strong smell of paint. Do you smell paint? Do you smell paint? I think it's oil paint. Yes, painting. Painting. As my Christian name implies, I am the savior of modern art. My painting is a method of photographing the substance of thought through the nerve ending of the human eye. I dream while I am awake. My mind is a projection machine. I can project my little inward cinema, so I can exit through a secret passageway from the circle in which the world is attempting to imprison my soul. Take clouds, for example. Waves in the skies, buttocks, heads, elephants, titanic struggles, lumped leopards, monstrous coupling, clamoring crowds. All I need to do is to look at an object, for that object to be transformed to suit my every whim. Metamorphosis is the name of the game. What is a television to a man who has only to shut his eyes to see the most inaccessible regions of the scene, the half seen, and the never seen at all? From an aesthetic point of view, freedom is formlessness. So I say a plague on lazy masterpieces. If you refuse to study anatomy, the arts of drawing, perspective, and the science of color, let me tell you that this is more a sign of laziness than of genius. Begin by painting like the old masters, then try your own experiments. My own mentors are Raphael, who is sublime, sublime. Velasquez, who represents reality with total chastity, and Vermeer for his wonderful clarity of vision. The inventor of the magnifying glass was born the same year in town as Vermeer. Most modern painters believe in nothing, so it is entirely natural that they should end up painting nothing, which is the case in all modern painting, especially the so-called abstract abstract art. There can be anything more absurd than the maniacal little lozenges of Mondrian or the woeful splodges of Jackson Bollocks. Never worry about being modern. It's the one thing one cannot avoid. But what about Picasso? I hear you cry. He had a feel for adjectives, but very few ideas. His brilliance lay in his skill as plagiarist, a stager, a jewel setter. But he always needed a partner. Ingres, Delacroix, Velasquez, and many others I forgot. He was a eunuch, a caricaturing imitator who tore down everything who could not outdo. Matisse represented triumph of bourgeois taste and promiscuity, and Cézanne shares something of his decadence. His apples are made of cement. I like Millet's erotic cannibalism, which reoccur in my own work. I could do without all German painting, especially the work of Max Ernst, is merely a good illustrator, and Dürer is but a pale reflection of the Italian Renaissance. Braque is the French petit bourgeois of good taste, perfectly suited as an imitator of fake marble. Leger is the worst of all. Even Braque is better than that clodhopper. Henry Moore, compared to par excellence Hermes, is the village idiot. His work is a sculpture of holes. On the other hand, I admire Marcel Duchamp for his supreme indifference, but he leaves me cold. But the worst painter in the world, from every point of view, without the foggiest hesitation or any possible doubt, is named Turner. I'm much more important as a cosmic genius than as a painter. My painting is what means for me to express my cosmic sense, my delirium and lucidity. Let's pass on. This subject bores me. Universe, pick up a number, universe. A bigger number. Bigger number. The history of science may be summarized as follows. Descartes constructed a three-dimensional cupboard. Newton placed an apple inside it, and Einstein moved it through space and time. QED. Einsteinian relativity does not exist solely on the domain of physical geometry, but also in the world of ideas and poetry. The disharmony of the real. The irrational rear its beautiful heads once more. Geometry is utopian and bodiless. Geometers seldom get their hard on. Time is unthinkable without space. This is what my paintings say. Four-dimensional reality. Having always possessed the microscopic ability to perceive that which is invisible to others. My own particular interest in the scientific sphere, in subatomic physics and molecular biology. The subatomic universe has taken me by storm. Swirling pools of protons, whirling pools of neutrons, electromagnetic fields where floating iron frisk. Splitting and refracting particles, colliding balls in chain reactions, dancing neutrinos, vibrating quarks, and little shimmering charms, all collapsing and expanding like so many tiny universes. What about the DNA? Deoxyribonucleic acid, that of Jacob's ladder of the genetic engine. The only structure linking them to God. Long before Crick and Watson, Dali has painted the double helix. And as for exploration of space, the first man in the moon is not bloody American, as is generally supposed, but the Spaniard, the Catalan, yes, one Salvador Dali, who from his earliest adolescence has painted fabulous and rugged landscapes where black and dazzling shadows are cast in lunar space without atmosphere. The atomic Dali is psychedelic camera. The atomic Dali is fluid computer. The atomic Dali is highly explosive. The atomic Dali is holographic colors. Take me! I am hallucinogenic!
And to end where else but at the beginning, in my intrauterine paradise, in the distant Jurassic mist of my earliest primal memories, in the warm, gluey voluptuousness of the swampy womb. All I can see is two fried egg ships, two soft orange ships moving towards me. Two succulent egg ships moving away, forwards and backwards, toing and froing, warm and suspended in Elysian fields, gently enfolded in rich, ripe sumptuousness, purple and yellow and plump and complete. And outside in the world, no wind blows, and the May sky is cloudless, blue as forget-me-not, and the Mediterranean is perfectly motionless. And there on its back, smooth as a fish's, one can see glistening the silver scales of not more than 7 or 8 laser-like sunbeams. So much the better. Salvador Dali will not wish it otherwise. It is on mornings such as this that the Greeks and the Phoenicians must have first disembarked in the Bay of Ampurius in order to come and prepare the bed of civilization, that is Spain. And the clean, white, and theatrical sheets of Salvador Dali's bed. He is there. He is there.
And out of this bliss, and quite suddenly, comes the cruel crash landing, the terrible birth trauma, ripped from the womb by the forces of nature, shuddering, juddering, wrestling, and wriggling, prepared like a cannonball into the world. Bright light, hard smack, strange hand, hard hand, bright light, first fear. No, no, no. You're getting this translation. No, no, no. Ah! Imagine recovering from such a shock, only to discover that I was merely a replacement, a second addition. Let me explain. I had a brother who died, age 7, 2 years before I was born. His name was Salvador too. I was but a reply, a double, an absence, ambivalent, a void, born dead, without any image of myself. The being that I was called upon to be found itself to be another. This other Salvador, the true one, has stolen my image from me. I thought I was dead before I knew I was alive. And thus, it came to pass that Salvador Dali is descended into hell. And as my birth was my death, so my death is my birth. Salvador Dali is dead, his body rots, chewed by worms and gnawed by maggots. His liver heaves in the wriggling mass. His heart is a green sponge gorged with pus. His lungs turn to sludge as his orphan rots, and his stinging slime oozes out of his guts. Then his putrefied corpse split apart, rent asunder by a mighty fall. Dali is dead. Salvador Dali is dead. 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 Elliot and Mary on the technicals. Thank you for coming. I really appreciate it. And if you like the show, please tell a friend. And if not, tell an enemy. Thank you very much.